Yeah. Yo, what up, dude? How are you?
Splendid.
Good. Good. Me too. Rob, super excited to share some stuff. And everybody, who doesn't like a good conversation relating to anything to do with sex, I guess. But yeah, I learned some new facts and I think these are gonna catch you a little off guard. But I also think you have plenty to add on to it for knowledge, having written that book. So yeah, let me share. So as far as porn goes, I didn't know the reason it's so bad for your dopamine system is that actually the excessive dopamine that the use of porn and orgasm releases actually causes would it be your limbic system? I don't know. Actually causes your brain to like trim, cut, get rid of receptors because
Wow.
it's
Yeah,
so
that's
tired of
fascinating.
being overloaded that it'll basically like prune itself, but inappropriate. Like it'll prune itself appropriately for the amount of dopamine that it's getting, but it's not a good pruning. It's a really bad pruning because then you lose all these receptors, and the byproduct of that is you have less receptors when you're when you're down or when you're depressed to like help you notice all the other little things in life. And so now you need a really big something, usually porn, to um to actually get you out of a bad state because it got rid of all these little receptors. So many of them.
Wait,
Isn't that
what are
nuts?
receptors linked to? Dopamine?
Yeah, dopamine receptors,
Hmm.
little receptors that will like I guess the way I understood it was picture you're depressed, you're having a bad day, maybe you're really tired or stressed. Because you have all these less receptors, you need an even bigger dopamine hit, almost like drinking a coffee, um, to be able to like get out of that state because you have less receptors to like notice the good things in life, less receptors to like appreciate little things like someone texting you or even just having someone's number or maybe like you're eating a piece of fruit and it's really delicious, but like because you have all these because your system has like cut out all these receptors, you're not actually that in tune to the little things that give you pleasure.
Hmm.
You need something big to give you pleasure.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense in a way because you might ask the question, why aren't we super lazy? Like, why do we even get up and do menial things? It's like because we have like it's our body's programmed to do that
Right.
and
And
to get
outfit
itself up. And hey, maybe that's linked, like you're saying, it's linked to to that, especially like it's linked to excessive pleasure, basically,
right.
and and harms that system. Yeah, dude, that's fascinating.
Isn't it? That's wild. The other thing I didn't know,
Bad pruning,
gentlemen,
right? Because
open your ears.
you think pruning's a good thing, right? Pruning's good if you're talking about pruning your garden, but you got to clarify bad pruning.
Well, yeah, you can prune too much, and that's what happens is is it your limbic system? I might be saying that wrong. But anyway, the
Was
system in
it
your
connected to
body that
libido or something?
maybe I'm using the wrong word, scratch that. But anyway, basically the system in your body that is used for like detecting like little pleasures and kind of helping you stay out of depressed and anxious modes, you've cut off all the extra receptors because it's so used to getting big hits of dopamine that it doesn't need as many receptors because it doesn't want to always be using dopamine, right?
Hmm.
It's always being flooded with dopamine, so it leans back on the receptors so that it doesn't get flooded as often.
Hmm.
And but the byproduct of that is you actually harm yourself. That's the first thing I learned. Super cool. I wasn't sure if
Well,
you
yeah,
might
I
have
have
already
some
known
comments
that.
on that too. I wonder if that's the same thing with other stimulants too.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I think
Okay.
it
Not
works
like
a
every
lot like
stimulant. Pornography is just an example of, and it's
right.
sex.
Well, I think it works the same way if you have probably any form of addiction, but if you use anything to get a high, basically it's anything that gives you a dopamine rush. but is giving like is an unnatural flood. I'm
Hmm.
assuming stuff like cocaine gives you a dopamine rush. I don't know, but any sort of drug that gives you a dopamine hit but isn't natural to the body is going to do the same thing to your system. It's your system's going to be so used to the flooding, it's going to trim back as many as it can so
Well, I
that
think any
it's
sort of
able to experience
stimulant,
lows.
right? Stimulant, like when you're talking about drugs, you have different types of drugs, and like you talk about your uppers and downers and stuff like that. So, I mean, who knows? I'm not going to dive deep into that. I mean, I don't think we are either. So, but yeah, it's fascinating, and it's and like, well, what's the difference, I guess, in this case with pornography and regular sex? Like, does it have a different? D does your brain
I think you could
respond
do the
differently?
same thing. I think you could get a similar result if you had like a sexual addiction, but obviously pornography is going to be like perfect sex. So like the sex you'd have to be having would either have to be through an addiction, I think, or it would have to be with like you're paying people who are really good at what they do and are really hot. Like it has to match, I think, porn, right? Because porn is the unobtainable in a way. Like everything's perfect, everything's scripted, you have perfect models, if you could, I guess,
Hmm.
etc. So I'm sure it would work the same way, but I think there are different considerations.
Uh-huh.
But I think the orgasm still gives you a dopamine hit, does it? I don't know.
Dude, it sounded like you were saying you can't like anything but really, really good sex. It's okay. Um, but no, the brain I think just responds differently to um
I
to sex viewed on a screen.
don't think I compare this to having heard other people's stories. I've met a couple people where they're like, yeah, yeah, like I spoke to this one individual who shared that at one point they had a different partner for every single day of the week to have
Hmm.
sex with, right? But I don't think that was a dopamine thing. I think that was a different system. While it's still on the understanding of, while still talking about the same subject of sex and sex related situations, I think that's a different system. I don't think that's doing that for dopamine. I think that's doing that for something else. So I'm not sure. I think it specifically has to be your dopamine system, which that's being engaged for this to happen. But I'm sure they all have similar effects, constantly too much of anything is
Hmm.
usually not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. All right, what else? What else you got there?
So here's the other thing. Um, because I always like that. That was always my wonder. It's like, okay, are your balls gonna explode if you just never masturbate?
Hmm.
Like, what the heck happens? After about 2.5 months, your body actually consumes your semen because your sperm dies and your body consumes it as nutrients for itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard of that before.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You've never shared that, so I was like, that's
That's no, but it's that's very interesting too. Because
it is.
yeah,
Well, because
'cause-
I never knew that. So
yeah, because it's like I mean that's a question. Something's got to go somewhere.
right. Well, and
So
yeah,
uh, I get in a man's brain at first. I mean, I didn't know that before, but like in a man's
right.
brain, it's like, well, if I don't expel this from my body, where does it go? What's happening to it?
Well, and I think a
Does it
lot of
just
people
exist?
like I knew this wasn't the case, but I think a lot of people are like, well, does that just mean I'll have wet dreams? I'll just kind of like ejaculate without like giving myself any sort of pleasure.
Hmm.
Um, which that never made sense to me. I was like, that that can't be it. But I was like, yeah, what does happen? Your body just stops producing it because it definitely doesn't stop producing testosterone. But yeah, I always knew there was more like science behind it, but I didn't know what it was. So when I learned that, I was like, that's really cool. That is so cool. What an awesome thing.
It's wicked cool. The body is freaking amazing in a way. Like it recycles. It This was cool. I think what's cool because I mean my dad obviously thinks the body's like fascinating in a way. It's like it's just so amazing how all like the organs work together, and there's so many little things in the body that it's just figured itself out where it has these different systems that work with each other. And it's kind of incredible. And it's like that too. The body isn't like a bad system. It's not a broken system.
Right. Oh yeah, of
It's
course. It's
supposed
it's
to, right?
basically
I mean, yeah,
flawless.
obviously, like we have illnesses and stuff like that, but it's supposed to be able to
Yeah, but those aren't
handle
even part
different
of it.
things properly and adapt. It's very adaptable, which is
Those aren't part of it.
cool.
You know, illness is something that it's an external thing acting
Yeah.
upon the machine, and then the machine learns to adjust to that load, so to speak.
Mhm.
Which,
Well,
speaking of,
this this reminds me of a conversation I was just having with somebody about getting sick and the body like taking its own precautions. And I think I was telling him when I had a fever before that I didn't take any medication for it. Like I just let the fever do its thing, and he was getting sick, and he's like, and I think he was thinking about taking medication, and we had just a conversation about it. And dude, it's just wicked cool.
who is this?
There's someone I work with, how a fever, like you think a fever is a bad thing. Oh, you have a fever, but it's there for a reason. And it's there to do some good work for the body and getting rid of what's ever in there. And you're like, dude, that's sick. That's awesome. No.
Yeah, your body will do it itself. I mean, medication didn't exist for forever. I feel like medication really only became a need after a major environmental change. It's like you think of like people who got really sick in like Alaska, but that was because they weren't like native to the area. So then they moved to Alaska and an illness that's new to them catches them and their bodies have never seen it before. And it would kill children without medication. But it was like, it did that because this was an illness your body hadn't ever trained for and didn't have like the capacity or time to do it before the virus got the better of you. Not to say medicine is irrelevant or unnecessary, but
Hmm.
it's not always because it is our first instinct to go to medication.
Hmm.
But keeping it on the fascinating subject of sex, um, uh, for the fun facts, I don't know if this is real or not. I'm going to turn down my brightness because it reflects in my glasses. But I'll have you know, just in case you ever need to know this. Now, of course, all things holy and godly, you'll never need to know this. But foods you should avoid are garlic, onions, broccoli, cabbage, leafy greens, asparagus, meat and dairy products, alcohol, cigarettes, and coffee. If you want certain bodily fluids to not taste bad, and foods that improve the taste of certain bodily fluids, if you know where I'm going with this, are celery, parsley, wheatgrass, cinnamon, nutmeg, pineapple, papaya, and oranges. And of course, everybody knows pineapple. So just a few to add to that list
That's
to
right.
make your day a little more interesting.
Um,
We're here to add conversation
uh-huh.
topics, starters.
Yeah, dude.
Strictly.
That's funny. Does it make it more nutritious too?
I doubt it. There's a lot of nutrients in your sperm, though.
This,
When your body reabsorbs it, there's a lot
dude,
of
I
stuff
remember
like
looking into that
zinc
before
and
too. I don't think I found much on it, but um,
well, it's not meant to be consumed, to be honest.
no. But but yeah, no, I remember looking into that before. I was looking at some other stuff and I was like, huh, interesting. Because you're like, well, this is supposed to be life's force right here. This is supposed to be something that, is a fertilization for new life and, it has to be packed with some vital nutrients and,
Well, it is.
for that new life. So, yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
has
but
like all the vitamins
I
you'd
didn't
expect.
find much on like, what do you call it? Your nutritious facts kind of, um,
I don't, well,
thingies. Like, yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
Like I wasn't able to break I wasn't able to break it down basically.
you have to remember that once you start to add elements to other elements, they transform into something completely different, you
Hmm.
know? Like, what is it where you add like salt to something else and they're completely normal things, but once you mix them, they're explosive. Is it sodium and chloride or something? And once you combine them, they're incredibly explosive. It's like that's the same thing. It's like that's what you have, and it's all these different elements, and then once they're mixed with whatever, something cool happens.
Damn, dude.
Cool.
That's
That's how
crazy.
I describe in making a child. Something cool happens.
Yeah. Dude, it's wicked cool.
It is, but
Absolutely
yeah,
wicked cool.
I think cool is an understatement. It's
That's
very
true.
like eighth grading.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool can seem very nonchalant. But but it's fascinating. Dude, another you, another me, another person. It's freaking incredible.
Yeah.
And how?
But yeah, that's what I was here to share, dude. I just thought that stuff was so
Dude,
cool.
it's
And
awesome, dude.
there's a lot
That
of
is
people who
wicked
don't
cool.
know that because
Hmm.
I didn't know that.
Well, I
So
didn't, yeah, I had no idea about the receptors. It like pruned your receptors. That's very interesting.
that's scary, you know, especially when you look at the number of people who are like, I'm depressed or
Hmm.
whatever, right? Or I'm down and I don't know how to get out of it. It's like, well, you might be down because of this issue that you have that really needs addressing. Like, yeah, like you're destroying your body's ability to recover or recuperate from typical phenomenon, right? Typical phenomenon, like, yeah, everybody gets a little down or depressed. Everybody has bad days. But because of something else you're engaging in that you shouldn't be, specifically in this case, pornography, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a drug. Maybe it's an orgasm. Maybe it's
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm. I mean, honestly,
You're
dude,
you're
I feel like I
preventing
can reflect
yourself
to I
from
can
being able to recover from normal phenomenons like depression.
I I was just gonna share some of my experiences with just like being away from technology, like where everything's go go go, everything's stimulation, and
That's probably another good example, to be honest. I wonder if that has the same effect because technology releases dopamine.
yeah, yes, and no, I'm just saying like when I'm out freaking camping or something like that, I it's just different. It's so different. It's like I'm not seeking any of that. I don't, I might feel lazy when I'm in an environment of techno
Nothing.
tech like those
Oh,
type of stimulants. But when I'm not, it's like I have no inkling of like laziness and wanting to sit back and do nothing. I feel I feel inclined to go. It's like, and I think this relates to the receptor idea. It's like my body has I have the natural motivation to get up and do things rather than because my body's not overstimulated seeking that stimulus. It doesn't take much, I guess, to feel to have a little bit of dopamine to the system to make me feel excited and motivated to go out and do things and work and be productive versus when you override the system, then you're you desire a lot more dopamine to get you to move and work.
Yeah, I don't know how that works personally, but um, you definitely want natural sources of dopamine release to be occurring, you know, which probably would look something like, kissing someone, having sex with them, stuff like that, where it's not, where it's like normal, like your human body was created for that. Or like whatever, spending time. I mean, those are related to sex, obviously, but like spending time with a friend. I don't know what. I'm sure there's lots of things that I do that release dopamine that I don't think about consciously, but you want it to be something natural.
Hmm. The natural is always the best.
Yes. But yeah, if you didn't know,
Always makes
or
sense, you know?
maybe,
It's like, I mean, you got freaking new things that come out, right? We never had like TikTok before. You know, you just don't. It's just something new that you're introducing your whole
well, and that
human
releases
experience
dopamine.
to. It's like,
Doesn't
who
doesn't
knows
the
if,
short
who knows what kind of effect it has even on the brain. Dude, it's interesting. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I can get too much into it, but um, who knows, dude, how the brain responds to that stuff. And it
yeah,
just seems like, I mean,
someone
I can tell you from personal experience, it doesn't, it's for me, it doesn't respond positively. Like, it usually responds negatively, where I'm inclined to feel like I feel laziness, like I have to push myself more to do things versus
when what?
out
When you do what?
when I'm around
Your phone.
technology, when I'm around the internet, right?
Right,
Um, I feel more inclined to just be lazy, and I have to push myself to be able to do things, which is fine. But
right.
when I'm out and like dude, it's a very interesting experience. When I go
Yeah, but
camping, when I go
oh,
camping, it's like it's easy, dude. I wake up in the morning, I'm like out of bed, dude. You know,
that's why the
there's things I
awareness
want to
helps.
do and stuff like that. Versus when I'm around technology, it's like I'm like, dude, I really want to like just chill out and sleep right now, even though I got stuff to do and I have to make myself do it. Versus when I'm out camping, it's like, dude, I'd rather do this anyway. Like, I don't want to lay here and do nothing.
Yeah, but that's why the consciousness of that situation helps so much because then you're more inclined not to step into that situation. Versus when you're sitting there going through your phone, sometimes if you're lucky, you'll be like, don't, I know I shouldn't be doing this right now, or I have something better to do. But it's so much harder to say no. Versus if you haven't picked up your phone to begin with, or whatever, hopped on the computer, whatever, uh, you know, linked yourself to the internet, however you do it, it's so much easier before you start than while you're in it. Because while you're in it, you're like, put it down, I'll pick it back up. Put it down, I'll pick it back up. Or that's what I'll do is. And so I can only imagine there's always the pros of being in nature, but yeah, yeah, the motivation to do things to redirect yourself once you're already linked to the internet is really it's much harder once you're engaged versus right before you step into it. Like picking up my phone, going, nope, not picking it up. I don't need to check whatever I was going to check. I was
Mhm.
doing that out of habit.
That reminds me of just starting things. Like, start something, the more likely you're going to stick to it. You know, even a bad thing or even a thing that's distracting. You start something distracting, the more likely you're going to stick to it.
Yeah. But anyway, dude, that's what I got, bro. So I figured you might know something about that because your book is all about that.
Hmm.
Ugh. But yes, yes, dude. Stretch and remind
Yeah, dude,
people
how's it
that
going reading it?
you're it's interesting. And your link to that book for anybody who sees this and wants to read a book on mastering yourself sexually as a man is in the bottom. There's an Amazon link to the book. It's really cheap because it is worth the money, and so he's getting it out there to you at a good price. So buy the book,
That's
dude.
right.
It's
Check it
very
out.
interesting. Um, yeah, about halfway through it right now. So I don't
Awesome.
make comments till I'm done. I don't want to, no spoilers, but buy it and hit subscribe because I asked you to. This is me asking indirectly. And hit like because I'm telling you to. This is me telling you. Hit like.
All right, y'all.
That's all I got, dude.
All right, done, dude.